They said he would never make it. Another privileged kid, destined to crumble under the weight of his family name. At age 12, he stood in the glaring spotlight of the world stage, cameras flashing, headlines spinning, millions of eyes watching his every move. But what they didn't know was that in those quiet moments, away from the blinding lights and deafening noise, a different story was taking shape, one that would shatter every expectation, every preconceived notion about who he was supposed to be. Barron Trump, the boy who grew up in a golden tower, faced a choice that would define not just his future, but the very essence of who he would become. While others wrote his story before he could live it, he was silently crafting something extraordinary, a journey that would challenge everything we think we know about identity, success, and the power of rising above the world's expectations. Today, you'll witness the untold story of how one young man turned the weight of impossible expectations into the fuel for an unprecedented transformation. Not just a story about a famous name, but a powerful testament to what happens when you dare to defy the limits others place on your life. This isn't just about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. What if I told you that the very pressure designed to break you could become the force that makes you unbreakable? Get ready to discover how the most judged young man in America rewrote the rules of success and identity. Growing up in the shadow of one of the most controversial names in modern history wasn't just challenging. It was a daily lesson in the power of perception. Every morning, Barron Trump woke up to a world that had already decided who he was, what he would become, and how his story would end. The headlines painted him as everything from a privileged heir to a tragic figure, but none of them saw the fire burning beneath the surface, the quiet determination that would ultimately redefine his legacy. At 14, standing 6 feet tall, he already towered over most of his peers physically. But the real giants he faced weren't the ones you could see. They were the towering expectations, the crushing weight of public opinion, and the relentless pressure to either conform to or rebel against the Trump name. While other teenagers worried about fitting in at school, Barron navigated a world where his every move, every expression, even his silence became fodder for global commentary. But here's what most people missed. Behind the carefully composed public appearances and rare glimpses caught by paparazzi lenses, a remarkable transformation was taking place. In the quiet moments between the chaos, in the spaces where cameras couldn't reach, Barron was crafting something powerful, an identity built not on rejection of his past, but on the profound understanding that true success isn't inherited, it's earned. The real story isn't about the advantages he was born with or the obstacles he faced. It's about the universal truth that each of us faces in our own way, the challenge of becoming who we're meant to be when the world thinks it already knows who we are. For some, it's the weight of family expectations. For others, it's the limitations placed on them by society, background, or circumstance. But the principle remains the same. Your identity is not a gift or a curse you're given. It's a choice you make every single day. As we uncover the layers of Barron's journey, you'll see how the very pressure that threatens to define us can become the force that sets us free. His story isn't just about surviving in the spotlight. It's about learning to shine on your own terms. And it begins with a moment that would change everything. A decision that would turn the burden of expectations into the foundation of extraordinary achievement. Every great transformation begins with a moment of truth. For Barron, that moment came during his freshman year of high school. The corridors of his private school might have been lined with the children of privilege, but no amount of security could shield him from the whispers, the stares, and the unspoken judgment that followed him like a shadow. Standing in front of his locker one morning, he overheard a conversation that would ignite a fire within him. He'll never have to work for anything in his life. Everything's just handed to him on a silver platter. Those words cut deeper than any headline ever had, not because they were cruel, but because they exposed his deepest fear, that perhaps they were right. Perhaps he was destined to be nothing more than a footnote in someone else's legacy. The weight of his last name felt heavier than ever that day, pressing down on his shoulders like an invisible crown he never asked to wear. Living in the shadow of a global empire wasn't just about dealing with public scrutiny. It was about fighting a daily battle against the temptation to simply accept the role the world had written for him. His childhood memories were a blur of gilded ceilings and bulletproof windows, of Secret Service agents who knew his schedule better than his friends did, of carefully orchestrated public appearances where his only job was to smile and wave. The golden cage might have been comfortable, but it was still a cage. The pressure manifested in unexpected ways. While his peers struggled with algebra and English essays, Barron grappled with questions that went far beyond academics. How do you make genuine friends when everyone you meet has already Googled your family history? How do you discover your own passions when the world assumes your path is already set? How do you build authentic relationships in a world where every interaction could be a potential tabloid story? His early teenage years became a masterclass in adaptation. He learned to read rooms before entering them, to gauge intentions behind friendly smiles, to distinguish between those who saw him and those who only saw his last name. The hyper-awareness that many saw as aloofness was actually a finely tuned survival skill, developed through years of living under society's microscope. But beneath the polished exterior and practiced responses, something else was brewing. The same scrutiny that threatened to break him was actually forging something stronger. Every dismissive comment, every predetermined judgment, every time someone underestimated his potential, these moments were quietly being transformed into fuel for what would come next. The turning point wasn't a single dramatic event, but rather a series of small realizations that built up over time. During a late-night conversation with his mother Melania, who understood better than anyone the weight of public perception, she shared words that would become his North Star. The world will always try to write your story. Your job is not to prove them wrong, but to write a better one. These words sparked something profound in Barron. He began to see that his greatest perceived weakness, the constant pressure of expectations, could become his greatest strength. The spotlight that had always felt like an interrogation lamp could be redirected, used to illuminate a path of his own choosing. The very name that some thought would overshadow him could become the foundation upon which he would build something entirely his own. As his 16th birthday approached, Barron made a decision that would alter the trajectory of his life. Instead of running from the pressure or rebelliously rejecting his heritage, he would do something far more powerful. He would redefine what it meant to be successful on his own terms. The journey wouldn't be easy, and the path ahead was far from clear. But for the first time, he felt something more powerful than the weight of expectations. He felt the stirring of purpose. This was the moment when the shadow began to lift, not because the pressure had lessened, but because his perspective had shifted. The question was no longer about escaping his father's legacy or living up to it. It was about building something that would transcend it entirely. The transformation that would follow would not only change how the world saw Barron Trump, it would change how he saw himself. The decision to forge his own path began with a simple morning ritual. Every day before dawn, long before the rest of Manhattan stirred to life, Barron would rise and spend an hour in his private study space. This wasn't about escaping his reality. It was about creating a new one. In these quiet moments, surrounded by books and his own thoughts, he began mapping out a vision for his future that had nothing to do with real estate empires or political legacies. His first major step shocked everyone around him. Instead of following the expected path into business or politics, he immersed himself in technology and artificial intelligence. The same meticulous attention to detail that others had attributed to his privileged upbringing became his greatest asset as he dove deep into coding and system architecture. His choice wasn't a rebellion, it was a declaration of independence. The initial reactions were predictable. Skeptics saw it as a phase, a temporary deviation from the predetermined script. Media outlets scrambled to fit this new development into their existing narratives. Even some family friends questioned whether he was making a mistake by not directly entering the family business. But for the first time, these opinions felt less like pressure and more like background noise. What nobody saw were the countless hours he spent mastering his craft. While others slept, he was building and rebuilding complex systems, learning from failures, and refining his skills. His approach to learning reflected a maturity that surprised his mentors. One of them, a veteran Silicon Valley developer who initially doubted his commitment, later admitted, "He's not here because of his name, he's here despite it." The breakthrough came during his junior year of high school. Working independently, he developed an innovative algorithm for privacy protection in social media, an ironic focus given his own experiences with public exposure. The project wasn't just technically impressive, It demonstrated a deep understanding of the human cost of living in the digital spotlight. When he presented his work at a prestigious tech conference, he did so not as Barron Trump, heir to a fortune, but as Barron Trump, innovator and problem solver. This success, however, was just the beginning. Understanding that true credibility comes from consistent achievement, he set increasingly challenging goals for himself. He sought out mentors not for their connections, but for their knowledge. One particularly influential guide was Dr. Sarah Chen, a renowned AI ethicist who initially approached him with skepticism but became one of his strongest advocates after witnessing his genuine passion for using technology to solve human problems. The transformation wasn't without its struggles. There were moments of doubt, nights when the weight of blazing his own trail felt overwhelming. The pressure to prove himself worthy of attention beyond his name never fully disappeared. But each challenge became an opportunity to reinforce his chosen path. When a major tech publication dismissed his achievements as privileged access, he responded not with words, but with more innovation, better solutions, and deeper commitment to his craft. His relationship with his family evolved during this period too. His father, known for his strong opinions about legacy and success, watched with a mixture of surprise and growing respect as Barron carved out his unique niche. Their conversations shifted from expectations to exchanges of ideas, from legacy to innovation. His mother's unwavering support took on new meaning as she witnessed her son not just surviving in the spotlight, but redirecting it toward his own aspiration. The most significant victory wasn't any single achievement. It was the gradual shift in how people perceived him. The change was subtle at first, but unmistakable. In tech circles, his name became associated not with his family's empire, but with his innovative solutions and ethical approach to technology. Young developers sought his advice not because of who his father was, but because of who he was becoming. By his senior year, Barron had established himself as more than just another privileged kid with resources. He had become a legitimate voice in the tech community. His work on privacy protection had evolved into a broader platform for digital rights advocacy, earning respect from both technical experts and social activists. The same intensity that the world had once attributed to his genes was now clearly recognizable as his own driven nature. This period of transformation crystallized a truth that would become central to his philosophy. True success isn't about escaping your circumstances or living up to them. It's about transcending them entirely. The choice to pursue his own path wasn't just about personal fulfillment. It was about demonstrating that every person, regardless of their background or the expectations placed upon them, has the power to define their own success story. The real power of transformation reveals itself not in the moment of decision, but in the thousands of small victories that follow. As Barron entered college, his earlier choices began bearing unexpected fruit. The privacy protection algorithm he'd developed in high school had evolved into a full-scale digital rights platform, attracting attention from major tech companies and privacy advocates alike. But what marked this period wasn't just professional success. It was the emergence of an authentic identity that transcended both his family name and the tech world's initial skepticism. His freshman year at MIT became a testament to the power of self-defined success. While many expected him to leverage his connections or seek special treatment, Barron chose to live in standard dormitory housing, sharing space with other students who would become collaborators and lifelong friends. This decision wasn't about proving humility. It was about creating an environment where his ideas and work ethic would speak louder than his last name. The transformation manifested in subtle but powerful ways. In group projects, he became known not as the Trump heir, but as the guy who would stay in the lab until dawn to perfect a piece of code. His contributions to class discussions weren't filtered through the lens of his family's political legacy, but evaluated on their technical merit and innovative thinking. Professors who had initially approached him with cautious skepticism found themselves impressed not by his background, but by his relentless drive to understand complex systems and create elegant solutions. A pivotal moment came during his sophomore year, when he led a team developing an AI-driven system for identifying and preventing online harassment. The project drew from his personal experience with public scrutiny, but transcended it to address a universal challenge. When the system was successfully implemented across several major social platforms, the headlines didn't focus on his family connections. They focused on the technological innovation and social impact of the work. The public's perception began shifting too, not through any orchestrated PR campaign, but through the undeniable evidence of his contributions to the tech world. Industry leaders who had once dismissed him as a dilettante now sought his input on privacy and ethical AI development. His presentations at tech conferences were standing-room-only events, not because of curiosity about his family, but because of his insights into the future of digital rights and responsible innovation. This period also marked a profound personal evolution. The constant awareness of public scrutiny that had once been a burden transformed into a unique perspective on the intersection of technology and human dignity. He began speaking openly about his journey, not as a story of privilege or burden, but as an example of how personal challenges can become the foundation for meaningful innovation. The relationship with his family entered a new phase as well. His father, initially skeptical of his technology focus, began seeking his advice on digital strategy and privacy concerns. Their conversations evolved from the weight of legacy to the possibilities of innovation. His mother, who had always supported his independence, watched with quiet pride as her son's chosen path validated her early guidance about writing his own story. But perhaps the most significant transformation was internal. The pressure to prove himself, which had once felt like a constant weight, transformed into a steady source of motivation. Each new project, each technical challenge, each successful implementation became not just a professional achievement, but a confirmation of his chosen path. The very public scrutiny that had once threatened to define him became a platform for demonstrating how technology could protect and empower others facing similar challenges. His junior year brought an unexpected opportunity when a major data breach exposed millions of users' personal information. Drawing from his work on privacy protection, Barron developed a rapid response system that not only contained the breach, but established new standards for data security. The solution earned him recognition from industry leaders and privacy advocates alike, but more importantly, it demonstrated how personal experience could inform technical innovation. As his undergraduate years drew to a close, Barron had accomplished something remarkable. He had transformed the burden of expectations into a foundation for genuine achievement. His work in technology wasn't just successful, it was meaningful, addressing real problems and creating solutions that extended far beyond his personal experience. The shadow of his family name hadn't disappeared, but it had become just one part of a much larger story, one that he was writing on his own terms. His transformation offered a powerful lesson about the nature of true success. It's not about escaping your circumstances or living up to others' expectations. It's about using every aspect of your experience, even the challenging parts, to create something valuable and authentic. The world that had once sought to define him now watched with interest to see what he would define next. The principles that emerged from Barron's transformation extend far beyond the context of famous names or privileged backgrounds. His journey illuminates fundamental truths about personal growth and authentic success that apply to anyone facing the weight of expectations. The first and most powerful lesson centers on the relationship between identity and pressure. What Barron discovered was that identity isn't something that's given to you or imposed upon you. It's something you actively create through daily choices and consistent actions. The pressure of external expectations, rather than being purely destructive, can become a catalyst for exceptional achievement. But the key lies in how you harness that pressure. Barron's approach demonstrated that success doesn't come from fighting against expectations or surrendering to them, but from transcending them entirely. He showed that every label, every preconception, and every limitation others place on you can be transformed into fuel for growth. This transformation begins with what we might call the principle of authentic positioning. Instead of trying to prove critics wrong or supporters right, Barron focused on proving something to himself. He understood that true confidence doesn't come from external validation, but from the alignment between your actions and your values. This shift in perspective, from seeking approval to seeking alignment, changes everything about how you approach challenges. Another crucial principle that emerged from his journey was the power of strategic silence. In a world obsessed with constant communication and immediate responses, Barron demonstrated the strength in choosing when not to speak, when not to react, and when to let your work speak for itself. This wasn't about hiding or avoiding conflict. It was about understanding that the most powerful response to judgment is often consistent, quiet excellence. The concept of leveraged experience became another cornerstone of his approach. Rather than trying to escape or deny his unique circumstances, he used them as a foundation for creating solutions that could help others. His personal challenges with privacy and public scrutiny became the inspiration for technological innovations that would benefit millions. This teaches us that our greatest contributions often emerge from our deepest struggles. Perhaps the most significant principle was what we might call identity entrepreneurship, the active process of building your own story rather than accepting the one others write for you. Barron showed that you don't have to reject your past to create your future. Instead, you can integrate every aspect of your experience into a larger narrative that you control. This isn't about denying reality or avoiding challenges. It's about choosing how to interpret and use every element of your journey. The principle of compound identity also emerged clearly through his transformation. Just as compound interest builds wealth over time, compound identity builds personal power through consistent, daily choices that align with your chosen path. Each small decision to stay true to his vision, each extra hour in the lab, each choice to pursue excellence rather than ease. These accumulated into a foundation of genuine achievement that no amount of skepticism could shake. Finally, Barron's journey illustrated the principle of transcendent success, the understanding that true achievement isn't about meeting or exceeding expectations, but about rendering them irrelevant through the creation of new standards entirely. He showed that the most powerful way to deal with the weight of expectations isn't to break free from them, but to build something so significant that they become secondary to your actual impact on the world. These principles, woven together, create a framework for anyone facing similar challenges of identity and expectation. They show us that the path to exceptional achievement isn't about having the right circumstances or avoiding pressure. It's about transforming every circumstance and every pressure into a building block for something greater than anyone could have expected. Converting extraordinary circumstances into exceptional achievement isn't reserved for those born into famous families. The practical tools that emerge from Barron's journey can transform any situation of pressure into a platform for growth. The key lies in implementing these strategies with consistency and purpose, regardless of your starting point. Start your day with what Barron calls identity anchoring, a deliberate practice of defining yourself before the world does it for you. This means spending the first 30 minutes of your day in focused reflection, writing down not just your goals, but your reasons for pursuing them. When Barron faced his most challenging moments, this morning ritual kept him centered on his own definition of success rather than others' expectations. Next, develop what he terms pressure conversion, the daily practice of transforming criticism into constructive energy. When faced with judgment or skepticism, immediately channel that energy into tangible progress on your goals. Barron demonstrated this by creating a simple but powerful habit. For every negative comment or dismissive reaction he encountered, he would add another hour to his skill development in technology. This wasn't about proving critics wrong, it was about using their energy to fuel his growth. Create what Barron calls a success evidence journal. Document every small win, every milestone, every piece of proof that you're moving in your chosen direction. This isn't about ego. It's about building an unshakable foundation of confidence based on actual achievement. During moments of doubt, this concrete evidence of progress becomes your strongest ally against uncertainty. Implement the expertise stacking strategy that Barron used to build credibility. Instead of trying to completely reinvent yourself, identify how your current circumstances, even the challenging ones, give you unique insights. Then systematically acquire skills that complement these insights. Barron's understanding of public scrutiny combined with his technical expertise created a powerful combination that neither element alone could have achieved. Develop a response protocol for handling judgment and criticism. Barron's approach involved 3 steps. First, acknowledge the emotion without acting on it. Second, evaluate the criticism for any useful information. Third, channel any remaining energy into productive action. This systemic approach prevents reactive decisions while maintaining forward momentum. Build what Barron terms a resonance network, a carefully curated group of people who understand and support your vision. This isn't about collecting influential connections. It's about creating a support system that amplifies your growth. Choose people based on their alignment with your values rather than their status or potential advantages they might offer. Finally, practice impact focusing, measuring your progress not by external metrics, but by the tangible difference your work makes in solving real problems. This shifts your attention from validation to value creation, transforming the way you approach challenges and opportunities. When Barron faced moments of doubt, he would focus on the number of users his privacy solutions were helping rather than the opinions of critics or supporters. These practical applications aren't just techniques, they're tools for transforming pressure into power, expectations into excellence, and challenges into catalysts for growth. The key lies not in their individual implementation, but in their consistent, combined application over time. Your circumstances don't define your potential. They simply set the stage for your transformation. Barron Trump's journey from a young man carrying the weight of global expectations to an innovator making meaningful contributions in technology isn't just about privilege or famous names. It's a testament to the power each of us holds to rewrite our story, regardless of who we are or where we start. Think about the expectations you're carrying right now, the labels others have placed on you, the limitations you've accepted as truth. Now imagine turning those very pressures into the foundation of something extraordinary. This isn't about rejecting your past or pretending pressure doesn't exist. It's about transforming every challenge into a stepping stone toward authentic achievement. The world will always try to write your story. It will attempt to define you through your circumstances, your background, or your perceived limitations. But just as Barron discovered, the pen is in your hands. Your legacy isn't determined by the expectations you inherit, but by the choices you make every single day. The pressure that feels like a burden today can become the force that propels you toward exceptional achievement tomorrow. The question isn't whether you can rise above expectations. It's how high you'll choose to soar. Your transformation begins the moment you decide to stop fighting against who others think you should be and start building who you know you can become. The journey won't be easy, but that's precisely what makes it worthwhile. Right now, in this moment, you have the power to begin your own transformation story. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, but today. Take that first step. Choose one area where others have defined you, and make one decisive action to redefine it on your terms. Your extraordinary chapter starts now. The world is waiting to see not who they think you are, but who you'll choose to become.